The sirens do not stop. That is the first thing you notice. In previous attacks, and there have been 54 documented waves before this one, the sirens were answered. The Iron Dome answered them. The Arrow batteries answered them. The sky above central Israel lit up with intercepts, and the sound of a defensive system working was almost reassuring in its violence. Tonight is different. Tonight, the sky is lighting up for a different reason. The plumes of smoke rising over Ramat Gan are not from intercepted warheads burning out harmlessly at altitude. They are rising from the ground, from streets, from buildings, from a city that has just been told in the most brutal possible language that the shield above it has limits, over 200 missiles, fired in a single coordinated wave, targeting the greater Tel Aviv metropolitan area in what the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is already calling the most intense phase of Operation True Promise 4. This is not a warning shot. This is a message delivered in steel and fire. And to understand what that message means militarily, strategically, and in terms of raw human cost, we need to walk through exactly what happened tonight, weapon by weapon, layer by layer, decision by catastrophic decision. Because the events that triggered this barrage did not begin with a launch order. They began with a death. The man at the center of this escalation is not a general. He is not a battlefield commander. He is a politician, and in the architecture of the Iranian regime, that distinction barely matters. Ali Larijani, former parliamentary speaker, senior advisor to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, a man with documented deep organizational ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stretching back decades. He is not a figurehead. He is a structural pillar of the Iranian system, one of the individuals through whom ideology, military strategy, and political authority flow simultaneously. Reports of his death began circulating on Iranian-affiliated social media in the early hours of the morning. Official confirmation from Tehran has not materialized. The fog of war is thick and deliberate, but the reaction from IRGC channels has been immediate, furious, and operationally significant. Iranian state-aligned networks are not treating this as a rumor. They are framing it as a strategic assassination, an attack on the sovereignty and dignity of the Iranian state itself. This framing matters enormously because within the psychological and ideological framework of the IRGC, there is a category of act that transcends military calculation and enters the domain of honor and revenge. When a senior political figure with deep revolutionary credentials is killed, whether by direct strike, intelligence operation, or otherwise, the response is not calibrated through a cost-benefit analysis. The response is existential. The IRGC does not ask what is proportionate. The IRGC asks what makes them feel what we feel. The answer delivered before dawn was 212 missiles. To understand why this barrage is different from the previous 54, why analysts are using words like unprecedented and threshold, you have to understand the specific weapons deployed tonight. Not just the volume, the type. The headline weapon in this attack is the Sejjil ballistic missile. And if you have not heard that name before, you will not forget it after tonight. The Sejjil is approximately 18 meters long, launch weight exceeding 23,000 kilograms, two-stage configuration, sufficient to strike targets throughout Israel and beyond. But the specification that makes defense planners lose sleep is not the size or the range, it is the fuel. The Sejjil is solid-fueled. This sounds like a technical footnote. It is not. It is the difference between a weapon that can be detected during preparation and one that cannot. Liquid-fueled ballistic missiles require a filling process, sometimes hours long, that is visible to satellite surveillance. Intelligence agencies can watch a liquid fuel missile being prepared, alert defense networks, and buy critical minutes of response time. A solid fuel missile sits ready. It requires no preparation window. The order is given, and it launches. From detection to impact, the timeline is compressed to a point where air defense systems are not reacting. They are scrambling. Former director of Israel's Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, Uzi Rubin, described the Sejjil's flight characteristics with a phrase that has now entered the vocabulary of every defense analyst covering this conflict: the dancing missile. The solid fuel engine provides high maneuverability during flight. The trajectory is not the clean, predictable arc of older ballistic systems. It shifts, it adjusts, it presents a targeting solution that changes in real time. The Arrow system, Israel's upper atmosphere interceptor, the apex of its layered defense, was designed for ballistic missiles that follow predictable physics. The Sejjil does not cooperate with predictable physics. The IRGC claims the Sejjil was targeted specifically at a key command center linked to Israeli air operations. With a warhead capacity of up to 1,500 kilograms, a single successful impact is not an incident. It is a catastrophe. The Sejjil did not arrive alone. Alongside it, the IRGC deployed the Khorram Shar, a medium-range ballistic missile capable of carrying a 2,000-kilogram warhead, making it one of the heaviest conventional warheads in the Iranian arsenal. The Khaybar Shakan, a more recent solid-fuel precision missile that Iranian engineers specifically designed to defeat Western air defense systems. And the Qadra, a liquid-fuel medium-range missile, still lethal in volume. The combination is deliberate. Different fuel types, different flight profiles, different altitudes and approach geometries, each one presenting a unique challenge to interceptor systems that must identify, track, and engage in fractions of a second. This is the saturation doctrine at its most sophisticated. It is not about any single missile defeating any single interceptor. It is about presenting so many simultaneous, varied, unpredictable threats that the mathematics of interception simply breaks down. Every defense network has a capacity limit, a maximum number of simultaneous engagements, a finite number of interceptors loaded and ready. When you exceed that limit, when you push the volume high enough and the variety wide enough, the system does not fail gradually. It is overwhelmed suddenly, and the difference from the ground and Ramat Gan looks exactly the same. Let us be precise about what Israel's air defense network is and what it is not, because in the aftermath of tonight, there will be considerable political pressure to misrepresent both. The Iron Dome operates at short range, designed to intercept unguided rockets and artillery shells. It is extraordinarily effective in that mission profile. Against Hamas rockets, against Hezbollah short-range fire, it has demonstrated intercept rates that no other system in history has matched in combat. It was not designed for two-stage ballistic missiles traveling at 10 times the speed of sound. The Arrow system operates at the opposite end of the spectrum, upper atmosphere intercept of ballistic missiles. Against a standard ballistic trajectory, it is highly capable. Against the Sejjil's maneuvering profile, the intercept geometry becomes significantly more complex. The interceptor must predict where the target will be at the point of intercept. A missile that changes course during descent is not giving you that information. David's Sling sits between them, designed for medium to long-range ballistic missiles and large guided rockets. It is capable and proven, but it has a finite magazine, and 200 incoming threats do not arrive one at a time. This is the economic logic behind the saturation attack, and it is as cold and precise as any targeting calculation. An Iranian ballistic missile costs between $1 and $3 million to produce. A Patriot PAC-3 interceptor costs approximately $3 to $4 million. An Arrow 3 interceptor costs significantly more. When Iran fires 200 missiles and Israel attempts to intercept them, the financial exchange ratio favors the attacker, even if a significant percentage are intercepted. Interceptor fired is a depletion of a limited stockpile that requires months to replenish. The Iranians are not just targeting Tel Aviv's infrastructure, they are targeting Israel's future ability to defend Tel Aviv. The first confirmed impacts are in Ramat Gan, a residential district, not a military installation, not an identified command center, a neighborhood. 2 fatalities are confirmed in the immediate reporting window. Emergency response teams are searching damaged structures for survivors. The sound of ambulances does not stop for over 90 minutes. Train services in central Tel Aviv are suspended after missile impact damages station infrastructure. Reports also surface of debris affecting a building associated with the U.S. consulate in Tel Aviv, a detail that, if confirmed, carries implications extending far beyond the immediate tactical picture. The IRGC's official statement claims that precision strikes hit industrial sectors linked to Israel's defense production and military staging areas. These claims cannot be independently verified in real time. But the fires visible on the Tel Aviv skyline are not located exclusively in areas consistent with military industrial targets. Smoke rises from residential districts. The mathematics of saturation attacks includes civilian areas. That is not an accident. That is an accepted consequence of the doctrine. Tonight's attack is not a single vector operation. Iran's most operationally capable proxy force announces a synchronized strike using what it describes as an advanced missile targeting Palmachim air base south of Tel Aviv. The timing is deliberate coordination, not coincidence. Palmachim is one of Israel's most sensitive military installations, home to satellite launch facilities, and serving as a key node in the country's aerospace defense infrastructure, striking it simultaneously with the main Iranian barrage forces Israeli Air Defense Command to manage threats from multiple geographic directions at the same moment. This is the multi-front doctrine, not just saturation in volume, saturation in direction. Beyond Israel, the IRGC claims strikes on U.S. military assets in the broader region, the Harir Air Base in Iraqi Kurdistan, the Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, a facility that hosts American assets and has been explicitly accused by Tehran of supporting operations against Iran. The strategic message is clear. The battlefield is not contained. There is a moment in every military campaign where the foundational assumptions of the strategy come into direct confrontation with reality. For the approach that shaped the opening of this conflict, strikes launched on February 28th, that moment is now. The strategy relied heavily on what military planners call decapitation doctrine. The theory is straightforward. Eliminate key decision makers, disrupt the command hierarchy, and the system loses coherence. It worked to varying degrees against conventional armies with centralized command structures. The IRGC is not a conventional army with a centralized command structure. It has been specifically designed over decades to survive exactly this kind of targeting. Authority is distributed. Operational continuity is built into the organizational architecture. When a senior figure is removed, the system does not pause, it does not reorganize, it retaliates. The reported death of Ali Larijani does not weaken the IRGC's operational capacity in any meaningful near-term military sense. What it does do is provide the ideological and emotional fuel for exactly the kind of overwhelming retaliation we are now analyzing. The decapitation strategy did not break the system, gave the system a reason to demonstrate it cannot be broken. This is the strategic miscalculation now on full display in the smoke rising over Ramat Gan. The conflict is now entering a phase where its military dimensions are being overtaken by its geopolitical ones, and the geopolitical picture is deteriorating in ways that no missile defense system can address. U.S. President Donald Trump has been pressing allies, including Japan, to deploy naval assets to the region to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Japan imports approximately 90% of its energy through that waterway. By every strategic logic, Japan has a direct interest in the strait's security. Japan has responded not with warships, but with a peace mediation unit. European nations have similarly declined U.S. requests for naval deployment. The reluctance is consistent across European governments, regardless of political orientation. The combination of energy crisis risk, domestic political pressure, and deep skepticism about the strategic direction of the conflict has produced a collective response that amounts to not this time. The United States and Israel are not facing an isolated Iran. They are facing an Iran that is successfully positioning itself as a state under attack while the attacking coalition shrinks by the week. This is a strategic variable that no Iron Dome battery can intercept. The sun rises on a city that has changed in the night, not destroyed, not broken, but changed. The assumption that no matter how many missiles Iran fires, the shield above holds, that assumption has absorbed damage of its own tonight. And assumptions, once damaged, do not quietly repair themselves, has now demonstrated in combat conditions under real pressure against an active and sophisticated defense network that the Sejjil can reach Tel Aviv and that a 200 missile saturation barrage can produce ground impacts in residential areas. This is not a theoretical capability demonstrated in a test facility. It is a proven combat result. Must now decide its response. The options exist on a spectrum from continued targeted strikes to broader infrastructure attacks inside Iran to actions that risk triggering the wider regional conflagration that every international actor has spent 3 weeks trying to prevent. The IRGC has already answered the question of whether major retaliation deters them. It does not. The Iranian conditions for de-escalation, reparations, international guarantees are politically impossible for the current Israeli leadership to accept. The U.S. position has hardened past the point where diplomatic pivots are easily executed. And the international community, despite its concern and its statements, has demonstrated an unwillingness to deploy the kind of coercive pressure on either side that might actually alter the trajectory. The escalatory ladder has more rungs above where we are tonight. Whether anyone has the clarity, the will, or the remaining space for maneuver to stop before climbing them, that is the question that no missile, no interceptor, and no tactical analysis can answer. Has a grammar of its own. It builds sentences out of provocations and responses, escalations and miscalculations, until the paragraph it is written is one that nobody in the opening chapter intended to produce. The reported death of Ali Larijani, confirmed or not, the reaction to it is already real, has produced a night that defense analysts will study for a generation. The first combat deployment of the Sejjil over an Israeli city, the largest single-wave missile barrage of this conflict, a saturation attack specifically designed to overwhelm the most sophisticated layered air defense network in the Middle East, and a morning in Ramat gone, where families are searching through rubble instead of going to work. The IRGC sent a message tonight written in 212 missiles and read in smoke over Tel Aviv. The message is simple, brutal, and strategically deliberate. You cannot stop all of them. The question Israel, the United States, and a watching world must now answer is whether the response to that message makes the next sentence shorter or longer. History suggests the answer will not be comfortable, and the sirens somewhere over the city have not stopped. If you want to stay ahead of this rapidly developing story, subscribe to the channel. New analysis drops as events unfold. Thank you.